The 2010s are coming to an end and I could hardly believe it. Throughout the past 10 years, I've grown into the person I am today, as well as spent a lot of my time, probably even too much, into my favorite hobby, which is playing video games. I want to take this time to reflect over the past 10 years and bring attention to what I believe are the best 10 games of the decade. Call of Duty Black Ops is my all-time favorite COD game. I have a ridiculous amount of memories that I look back at today and still drown in complete reminiscence. Black Ops single-player campaign will always be one of the most iconic campaigns in the Call of Duty franchise, in my opinion. It introduced the fan-favorite hardened Frank Woods, the slick aviator rocking Jason Hudson, and the delirious brainwashed Alex Mason. These characters really made up a fantastic dynamic trio, and it fit perfectly in the story the game was trying to tell. The Zombies mode was also, I feel, the most enjoyable out of the 4 Black Ops games. Running maps such as Kino der Toten, repeatedly challenging myself to get to the 50th round of the Endless Horde, being frustrated when the mad scientist swiped my ray gun just after I'd gotten it on the map 5, and having the Fear acronym expansion drops that delivered Ascension, Call of the Dead, Shangri-La, and the Moon, it was just the best Zombies experience. Black Ops Zombies was very bare bones, with the primary focus I feel being the survival of high rounds first and the means of Easter eggs second. But what makes Black Ops the most memorable is its multiplayer mode. Black Ops multiplayer was one of the most innovative out the entire series in my opinion. It was the first stepping stone of player customization. Perks you used could change the appearance of your character. There was 15 awesome unique weapon camos, with the best being the newly introduced gold. Reticles on gun sights were customizable for the first time, emblems were fully up to the talent of the player, and my favorite mechanic, the COD point system, an in-game currency that at the time wasn't controlled by microtransactions. You earned the COD points in-game to express yourself in both cosmetics and playstyle, which also introduced party games like Gun Game, One in the Chamber, Sharpshooter, and Sticks and Stones, where the player gambles their COD currency to become richer to better afford items in the game. The game itself also was when I started visiting this website we're on today called YouTube. Call of Duty Black Ops is a game that shall truly go down in history. Telltale's The Walking Dead was my introduction to the point-and-click adventure game genre. The Walking Dead tells a compelling story of survival in the post-apocalyptic world between a convict and his orphan child Clementine. These two faced many obstacles together that kept myself on the edge of my seat and longing for each episode's release. Throughout the game, our two characters meet a multitude of other survivors in this world consisting of loyalty, compassion, and love, while others weren't so friendly and opposed the ground they stood on. Even members within their own group had questionable tendencies. The roster of characters and the amount of say that the player has over the course of the game is what I feel made the game so impactful. This game brought the choice-based narrative genre into the mainstream light. One would argue that choices when they boil down don't heavily influence the story in the long run, but the choices did increase tension and added a sense of variety. The Walking Dead went on to win the Game of the Year award for 2012 and has rightfully so earned the spot in the top 10 of the decade. SpiderMan PS4 is what I believe to be the best superhero game ever created. This brand new and completely original iteration of Spider-Man that Insomniac Games have crafted is something truly special, and it stands well on its own compared to anything else we've seen done with Spider-Man before. In this story, Peter Parker has been Spider-Man for 8 years, so he is very experienced, which is directly beneficial from a gameplay standpoint because we are simultaneously thrown into the action the second the game starts. The rush of the very cinematic and addictive web slinging to the high-speed action fights with multiple gadgets to your disposal and many enemies that need a handling at hand make for an insanely adrenaline-pumping gameplay loop. There's also a grand scale of suits, all with their unique abilities to use during combat. The graphics are highly impressive and really shine both during the cutscenes where it presents great cinematography and in raw gameplay. After the complete rollercoaster ride this game put me through, I had my mind set that I definitely want a sequel. Grand Theft Auto 5 is what I spent all my time playing on the PS3 from the end of 2013 to mid-2015. The game had a very over-the-top story set in the beautiful LA rehashed Los Santos, which was a complete 180 from its darker predecessor, Grand Theft Auto 4. The game featured 3 main protagonists, which was the first in the series, reintroduced a high volume of customization back to the game so the player could have somewhere to spend the millions of dollars it would make throughout the game, whether it's on cars, clothes, guns, property, and so on. But what makes Grand Theft Auto 5 a game of the decade is its online component, Grand Theft Auto Online. Grand Theft Auto Online was revolutionary when it first dropped. It was nothing we've ever seen before, and it was continuously updated to keep things fresh. Playing with friends, forming a crew to roam the world with, partaking in jobs, street races, death matches, the long-awaited heist, and so on, was some of the most fun I've ever had in an online game. Red Dead Redemption 2 has the most dynamic open world I've ever experienced in a video game. You can interact with every NPC on the map, there was an honor system that alters the world's views on you, lots of micromanagement that were very in detail such as your hunger, hair growth, and gun treatment. The game featured 200 different animals they could hunt that reacted to the environment in unique ways. The customization of Arthur Morgan was spectacular and fun to play with, and I could honestly go on forever. But what Red Dead Redemption 2 does best is deliver a great narrative that puts you in the shoes of someone who is on the run, and the game makes you reflect and think about what you're willing to do to survive and keep your family close no matter the circumstance. The most impactful aspect of the game is even though Arthur Morgan is seen as the scum of the earth due to his sins, by the end of the journey, depending on how you play, you can reach a status of redemption. The way you realize this is through an amazing reflecting sequence that was incredibly bittersweet. Red Dead Redemption 2 has blockbuster action, a world to explore, and an incredible story to embark. Life is Strange is my favorite teenage story across all media. When I originally played this game, I didn't really know what to expect since I've seen nothing on it and went in completely blind. And I have to say, I fell in love with what I discovered. Max Caulfield's ability to reverse time was a cool mechanic to be added in a choice-based game because you can alter the past and possibly even the future of different encounters. What I love most about this game is its beautiful soundtrack. It perfectly sets different moods throughout the game. For example, at the very beginning of the story, you feel as if you're playing some cute flick, but you soon realize that the game has something much darker in store for you. Life is Strange is the best choice-based game I've ever played, and it has some of the most surprising twists and turns I've ever encountered in a video game. The story is crafted together perfectly, and no doubt you'll walk away very satisfied and surprised. Uncharted 4 was my most highly anticipated game in 2016. This game was single-handedly the reason why I wanted the day I finally got my hands on a PlayStation 4 to come. I wanted to be ready for when the game dropped, and thankfully summer 2015, I got the PS4, which left me ready nearly a year ahead of time. Uncharted 4 was the closing of Nathan Drake's arc. It was that one last time, and I longed to experience it due to how big of a fan I was. When I got my hands on Uncharted during midnight release, I was blown away by how much the game had developed from the previous gen. Real-time cutscenes, amazing animations, ridiculous graphics, awesome set pieces, great cast of characters, and of course, the nostalgia. The game had this kick-ass antagonist named Rafe, who had a personal issue with Nathan that kept him motivated and going. Rafe and Nathan have a history up the ante to another level during the traditional Uncharted boss fight phase. Nadine, who was Rafe's partner through the journey, was also a cool addition. She supplied the Shoreline Militia, and it made up a very interesting combo. Even though most feel Nadine was a pointless character, I myself actually liked her. All in all, Uncharted 4 had a plentiful amount of insane high adrenaline action-packed moments, and the game very much so lived up to the hype. Destiny is what I consider to be the best multiplayer experience of all time. The game may seem lacking at first just running through the base story, but that's just the crust you must peel off before the game can truly shine. Playing Destiny non-stop during 2014 through 2016 is something I wish I could relive again. There's just no feeling like running your first Vault of Glass and finally slaying Atheon. The excitement of pulling exotics from raid chests and boss fights was unreal as you waited to see what your friends have acquired. Staying up until 3 AM on Monday nights going into Tuesday for the weekly refresh was always a thrill. You were granted the chance for another crack at all the glorious loot again through the weekly heroic, weekly nightfall, the raid, and Trials of Osiris, hoping and praying that you get a taste of the power the Gjallarhorn holds in store. I've met friends on Destiny that I'm cool with till this day, and I've even met up with them in person. If you didn't get the chance to experience the original Destiny game post-story, you truly missed out on the era, an era that's to never be forgotten. God of War 2018 was the perfect return of Kratos. They kept things fresh by completely changing both the gameplay and the flow of progression while keeping it a continuation of the original story. If this game didn't have God of War written all over it, Sony Santa Monica could have considered this a brand new IP in my opinion. The originals play completely different than the latest title. This was my most highly anticipated game of 2018 and it didn't fall short or even come close to disappointing. If I had one complaint to make though, it would have to be about the boss fights. I feared going into this game after what we got in the great scale of epic boss battles from God of War 3 that this game would be lacking in that department, and sadly come to say, the game did indeed lack in the boss fights. But apart from that, I feel the game was damn near perfect. The new combat was amazing, the exploration was blissful, and the story was great and left room for more. Another God of War sequel feels like a no-brainer, and I'm excited to see what comes next, especially after seeing the ending we were greeted with to conclude this game. The Last of Us is my game of the decade, but this should be of no surprise. I beat this game more than any other game I've played in my life, sitting at 21 playthroughs, and let's be honest, you gotta be a madman to play the same game that many times. And a madman is what I am. The Last of Us tells a fantastic story between a broken man and a special little girl, and over the course of the game, these two grow a special bond that is unbreakable. This game is vastly critically acclaimed, and despite coming out in 2013, is considered to be a lot of people's favorite game of all time. The gameplay really isn't too complex, but it's very satisfying, so it very much so gets the job done. The world Joel and Ellie lives in is very unforgiving, and I'm ready to set foot in the long-awaited, highly anticipated sequel, The Last of Us Part 2. And those are my top 10 games of the decade. I'd have to say that the past 10 years have been something to truly remember. Gaming has changed so much over the course of my life, and I can only imagine what it'll be like in 2030. But how would you guys rank my list for the decade? What are your guys' games for the decade? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like so others can see as well, and subscribe to the channel with post notifications on for more awesome content, and I'll see you guys next time with another banger.